Again, I'm Lucky and I'm pursuing my integrated MBA in data science and artificial intelligence from IIT Mandi, and I'm making these videos just for the sake of improving my communication skills, have a better understanding of life, and having a reality check, and also being consistent. So from last few days, I was noticing that I have good books and I have access to so much resources, but I'm not able to manage my time to read out or understand those. So I have decided that from now, every day, whenever I feel like, I'll read some part of a book. And today it is the book How to Win Friends and Influence People from Dale Carnegie, and I'll be reading out some 9 suggestions on how to get most out of this book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. So the first one is, if you wish to get the most out of this book, there is one indispensable requirement, one essential, infinitely most important than any rule or technique. Unless you have this fundamental requisite, 1,000 rules on how to study will avail little. And if you do have this cardinal involvement or this cardinal quality, then you can achieve wonders without reading any suggestion for getting the most out of a book. What is this magic requirement? Just this, a deep driving desire to learn, a vigorous determination to increase your ability to deal with people. And how can you develop such an urge? By constantly reminding yourself how important these principles are to you. Picture to yourself how their mastery will aid you in leading a richer, fuller, happier, and more fulfilling life. Say to yourself over and over, my popularity, my happiness, my sense of worth depends on no small extent upon my skill in dealing with people. The second one is read each chapter rapidly at first to get a bird eye view of it. You'll probably be tempted then to rush on to the next one, but don't unless you are reading merely for entertainment. But if you are reading because you want to increase your skill in human relations, then go back and reread each chapter thoroughly. In the long run, this will mean saving time and getting results. Okay. So the third one is stop frequently in your reading to think over what you are reading. Ask yourself just how and when can you apply each suggestion. The next one is read with a crayon, pencil, pen, magic marker, or highlighter in your hand. When you come across a suggestion that you feel you can use, draw a line beside it. If it is a 4-star suggestion, then underscore every sentence or highlight it or mark it with 4 stars. Marking and underscoring a book makes it more interesting and far easier to review rapidly. Okay, so fifth point is I knew a woman who had been office manager for a larger insurance concern for 50 years. Every month she read all the insurance contract her company had issued that month. Yes, she read many of the same contracts over and after month, year after year. Why? Because experience has taught her that that was the only way she could keep her provisions clearly in the mind. I once spent almost 2 years writing a book on public speaking, and yet I found I had to keep going back over it from time to time in order to remember what I had written in my own book. This rapidity with which we forgot in astonishing. So, if you want to get a real lasting benefit of this book, don't imagine that skimming through it once will suffice. After reading it thoroughly, you ought to spend a few hours reviewing it every month. Keep it on your desk in front of you every day. Glance through it often. Keep constantly impressing yourself with the rich possibilities of improving that still lie in the offing. Remember that the use of these principles can be made habitual only by a constant and vigorous campaign of reviewing and application. There is no other way. So now before going to next 4 points, I'll just review these 5 points, what all is there that is written in these 5 points. So the first point says that to make best out of this book, we must have a deep driving desire to learn and a vigorous determination to increase our ability to deal with people. The second point says that instead of rushing to next and next chapter, just review each chapter after completing it. So, for example, if I completed first chapter, then instead of going to second chapter, I have to thoroughly revise the first chapter again to have a better understanding of that. And the third point says that while reading this book, stop and think what, where, and how can you apply these suggestions to your real life and make some impact. The fourth point says that having a marker, pen, or pencil with us while reading the book will be very helpful. As when we feel like this is a suggestion which I can implement in my life and this will be really helpful, then I shall mark it and it will be easy for me to review it later. And the fifth point says that after completing this book, we must take some hours out, 3 4 hours, and just thoroughly revise this book every month so that we have a better understanding and we can also recall the things that we have learned from it. Just because we'll forget it if we'll not review it regularly. Now, the sixth point says that Bernard Shaw once remarked, if you teach a man anything, he'll never learn. Shaw was right. Learning is an active process. We learn by doing. So, if you desire to master the principles you are studying in this book, do something about them. Apply these rules at every opportunity. If you don't, you will forget them quickly. Only knowledge that is used sticks in your mind, and you will probably find it difficult to apply these suggestions at all time. I know because I wrote the book, and yet frequently I found it difficult to apply everything I have advocated. For example, when you are displeased, it is much easier to criticize and condemn than it is to try to understand the other person's viewpoint. It is frequently easier to find fault than to find praise. It is more natural to talk about what you want to talk about what the other person wants rather than talking about what the other person wants, and so on. So, as you read this book, remember that you are not merely trying to acquire information, you are attempting to form new habits. Yes, you are attempting a new way of life that will require time and persistence with daily application. So, refer to these pages often, regard this as a working handbook on human relations, and whenever you are confronted with some specific problem, such as handling a child, winning your spouse to the way of thinking, or satisfying or irritated customer, hesitate about doing the natural things, the impulsive thing, this is usually wrong. Instead, turn to these pages and review the paragraph you have underscored. Then try these new ways and watch them achieve magic for you. The seventh point is offer your spouse, your child, or some business associate a dime or a dollar every time he or she catches you violating a certain principle. Make a lively game out of mastering these rules. The eighth point is the president of an important Wall Street bank once described in a talk before one of my classes a highly efficient system he used for self improvement. This man had little formal schooling, yet he had become one of the most important financiers in America, and he confessed that he owed most of his success to the contest application of his homemade system. This is what he does. I'll put it down in his own words as accurately as I can remember. That is, for years I have kept an engagement book showing all the appointments I had during the day. My family never made any plans for me on Saturday nights. For the family knew that I devoted a part of each Saturday evening to the illuminating process of self examining and reviewing an appraisal. After dinner, I went off by myself, opened my engagement book, and thought over all the interviews, discussions, and meetings that had taken place during the week. I asked myself, what mistakes did I make that time? What did I do that was right? And in what way could I have improved my performance? What lessons can I learn from that past experience? And I often found that This weekly review made me very unhappy. I was frequently astonished at my own blunders. Of course, as the years passed, these blunders became less frequent. Sometimes I was inclined to pat myself on my back a little after one of these sessions. This system of self analysis, self education, and reality check continued year after year, did more for me than any other thing I have ever attempted, and it helped me improve my ability to make decisions, and it aided me enormously in all my contacts with people. I cannot recommend it too highly. Why not use a similar system to check up on your applications of the principles discussed in this book? If you do, two things will result. First, you will find yourself engaged in an educational process that is both intruding and priceless. Second, you will find that your ability to meet and deal with people will grow enormously. And the ninth and the final point to make best or take best out of this book, or you can say getting most out of this book, is you will find at end of this book several blank pages on which you should record your triumphs in the application of these principles. Be specific, give names, dates, results. Keeping such a record will inspire you to greater efforts, and how fascinating these entries will be when you chance upon them some evening years from now. In order to get most out of this book, A. Develop a deep driving desire to master the principles of human relations. B. Read each chapter twice before going on the next one. C. As you read, stop frequently and ask yourself, how can you apply this each suggestion in your life? And the fourth one is underscore each important data. Fifth one is review this book every month so that it stays in your mind and makes some impact in your life. And the sixth one is apply these principles at every opportunity. Use this volume as a one working handbook to help you solve your daily problems. And the next one is make a lively game out of your learnings by offering some friend a dime or a dollar every time he or she catches you violating one of these principles. The eighth one is check up each week on the progress you're making. Ask yourself what mistakes do you made and what improvements, what lessons have you learned for the future. And the ninth and the last one is keep notes in the back of this book showing how and when have you applied these principles. So that was all for today, and I hope this exercise improves my communication skills and also increases my knowledge in terms of social relations and reality check of what I'm doing and discipline and consistency too. So that was all for today. Good night. Jai Hind.